So Stipe Miocic is the fighter that seems like it's going to be fighting Jon Jones later this year, as even Jon Jones himself said that he wants to fight Stipe. Called him out after his fight with Ciryl Gane, called him out on social media, said that he wants to fight him later this year, and he wants to do it in New York, which usually happens in November, and he joked around saying that might be his retirement fight. It'd be a cool idea to beat the greatest heavyweight of all time and then call it a career, but this is not the fight that most fans want right now. The main reasons why people don't want to see Stipe fight Jones right now is because Stipe's 41 years old, way past his prime now, and has been inactive. By the time November comes, he would not have a fight in 2 years since he got knocked out by Francis Ngannou. And the other reason as to why people don't want to see Stipe fight Jones right now is because we have another contender. We have another guy that's pretty much like a replacement in a lot of people's eyes from Francis Ngannou, and that is the Russian Ngannou, Sergei Pavlovich, with a massive 84-inch wingspan standing at a whopping 6'3". He is matching the problematic length of Jon Jones, having the second shortest average fight time in UFC history at 2 minutes and 23 seconds a fight, and also holding the record for highest knockdown average per 15 minutes. This monster is even more dangerous than the powerhouses like Francis Ngannou, Shane Carwin, Derek Lewis, and Tai Tuivasa. No one in heavyweight history statistically has more lethal hands than Sergei Pavlovich. If we really look at it, he has the shortest average fight time. The guy who is at number 1 is Drew McFrady's. His average fight time was 2 minutes and 20 seconds, but almost all of his fights were losses. So he was getting beat that fast, whereas Sergei is beating others that fast. Yeah, even Francis Ngannou, when he was coming up, before he fought for a belt or anything, his first 6 fights had a longer average fight time than Sergei, and he didn't have as many knockdowns. In Ngannou's first 6 fights, he only had 3 knockdowns, whereas Sergei, in his first 6 fights, has 7 knockdowns, over doubling Ngannou's numbers, and he had much tougher opponents than Ngannou had for his first few fights. Ngannou fought Luis Enrique, Curtis Blades, Bojan Mihajlovic, Anthony Hamilton, Andrei Arlovski, and then Alistair Overeem. Sergei fought Marcelo Gome, Maurice Green, Shamil Abdurakhimov, Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa, and then Curtis Blades. Sergei not only had tougher competition than Francis Ngannou before getting a title shot, he over doubled the knockdowns, much shorter average fight time, nobody got into the second round, whereas with Francis Ngannou, he went to the second round twice. For his UFC debut against Luis Enrique and also against Curtis Blades, he almost went into the third round with him. It was a doctor stoppage in between the second and third rounds. Statistically speaking, Sergei is even more dangerous. I won't say more powerful punch for punch, but more dangerous because of his skills, his speed, and the way he's able to pick off his shots than even Francis Ngannou would be against Jon Jones. Sergei is the scariest man on the planet right now. The hardest challenge right now for Jon Jones. It is not Stipe Miocic. Sergei Pavlovich is 30 years old, not 41 like Stipe. He's also very active, fought 3 times in the last calendar year. He has all the confidence, he has the power dynamic that Francis Ngannou would have had against Jon Jones, his ferocity in his boxing, his strength in the clinch. Like, everything that Sergei presents is the biggest possible issue for Jon Jones right now. Nobody's giving Jon Jones a bigger challenge right now than Sergei Pavlovich. Certainly not 41-year-old Stipe, and I looked at what a bunch of you guys were saying as well. It looks like it's consensus. Everybody would rather watch Sergei fight Jones over Stipe at this point, because it looks like everybody believes that Jones is going to run right through this old Stipe. And a lot of people don't want to see that right now. They want to see Jones have a challenge, someone that's actually on paper could be a big problem for him. Has one-punch knockout power. I mean, the guy is on a 6-fight win streak, 6 knockouts in a row, all in the first round. Nobody's made it out of the first round with him in the UFC, and he only has 1 loss that happened 4.5 years ago when he was only 25 years old. Very young in his game, especially for a heavyweight, and at this point, I don't even know if he's hit his peak yet. He's probably not even at his prime yet. Prime is going to be in a couple of years from now, but he is the scariest man in the world. He's the most powerful guy Jones ever fought. He's physically the strongest guy Jones has ever fought. He is part of the new generation, and unlike Ciryl Gane, he would not be defeated mentally in front of Jones. This is a kind of guy who comes out there and fights and sends missiles at your head no matter what your name is, no matter who you are. Sergei Pavlovich marches you down and will not show Jon Jones the kind of respect that Ciryl Gane did. Ciryl Gane was mentally defeated when he got in there with Jon Jones, and it was very obvious of the way he was moving in there. Trying to like jump away from Jones's smallest actions was very strange to watch from such a big man. But Sergei does not do that. Sergei's gonna march Jon Jones down, throw that steel pole of a jab at his face, punch right over the leg kicks, counter Jones punches. And the thing everybody loves about Sergei Pavlovich, especially in this matchup with Jon Jones, is the fact that he's always present in every exchange. He never gives you anything. You throw a punch, he's meeting you. He's going to exchange with you. He's not going to give Jon Jones any freebies like Alexander Gustafsson did, like Ciryl Gane did. Sergei is going to fight Jon Jones in every step. And that's what we want to see. We want to see a young, explosive powerhouse like Sergei Pavlovich go after the best fighter in the world. And in every exchange, no matter where Jones is at, no matter how far he's punching, Sergei's going to be able to punch with him. Sergei has the same reach as Jon Jones practically. It's only a half-inch difference. The only guy outside of Francis Ngannou who's not in the UFC anymore that will be able to do something like that with Jones. Ciryl Gane had an 81-inch reach, which is a little bit different. Sergei has practically the exact same reach with one-punch knockout power. That's a big difference compared to anybody else that Jones has fought. Now, things could be troublesome for Sergei, of course. He's fighting Jon Jones. We want to see the grappling difference might be too vast. I mean, we saw Alistair Overeem dominate on top when he got Sergei to the ground 4.5 years ago, but ever since, you have to think that Sergei got much better. I mean, he traded in AKA, and those guys were drilling his wrestling constantly to not let that happen. And over these years, he had to have gotten so much better at his wrestling defense, and he is also very physically strong. If you look back at that Overeem fight, he did fend off a lot of the takedowns. He actually overpowered Overeem in some of the clinching, but Overeem just showed better technique to be able to get him to the ground, and that's the thing that worries me about Sergei when he fights Jon Jones, because Jones could take that to another level that Sergei's never fought up against before. Now, he can go and train with Daniel Cormier in preparation, who is very familiar with what Jones does. That would actually be an excellent step for him to get in preparation for someone like Jon Jones, analytically that is. He'll be able to understand exactly when Jones is going to shoot a takedown, what kind of takedowns he's going to go for, the awkwardness he brings with his striking and all of that. And because of the forward pressure from Sergei Pavlovich, Jon Jones' attacks are going to be a lot more obvious, and it's going to force Jon Jones into a lot of exchanges that he probably doesn't want to be in. A lot of fighters tend to move away from Jones, right? They do it for several different reasons. Number one, Jones is in front of them, right? They get kind of mentally shocked. Number two, he throws so many different kind of techniques on the feet from such a long range. The opponents are just watching for the big opening to get by that reach, but in the meantime, while they're looking for the opening, they're backing up, sometimes without even knowing that they are. But none of this is going to deter Sergei Pavlovich. He doesn't care who Jon Jones is. He doesn't care about the reach because he has the same reach as him. And he doesn't care about all the different kind of techniques because he's going to want to get in exchanges with Jones instead of looking for the big shot from distance. And we know from Sergei that one jab could put anybody down. I don't think he'll put Jones down because he has a phenomenal chin, but it would be something that Jones definitely does not want to get hit by. This guy's hurt 2 fighters already with a jab. Curtis Blaydes and Tai Tuivasa, both guys who knowingly have a pretty good chin. Curtis Blaydes only been knocked out by 2 of the biggest punchers in history. Nobody else is able to hurt him like that. And then Sergei came into the picture, who's also among the biggest punchers in history. But then you also have Tai Tuivasa, who took Derek Lewis's best punches. He did get knocked out by Ciryl Gane, that softened his chin, came back 2 months later and got destroyed by Sergei. So it did play a factor in him getting knocked out, but Sergei definitely has that kind of power to hurt anybody in the world. A few shots from him landing on the chin, Jones could be in some trouble that we haven't seen him before. Jones has never been like rocked in a fight that badly, where the fans are able to notice. And this is the scariest guy that can make that happen. And ultimately, the fans just want to see the challenge. We don't care as much about the Stipe fight, considering the fact that Stipe probably is just going to get ran right through. He's going to be older, slower, he might be ring rusted. There's going to be a huge grappling difference between them two. The kicks from Jon Jones are going to keep him at bay. He's going to be able to jab him from distance as well and then shooting takedowns under that. And Stipe's worst area is in the clinch, and that's exactly where Jones thrives in. So I think at this stage, it would be a pretty big mismatch. But with Sergei, it's a whole different story. Right, Sergei is so good right now that it wouldn't even surprise me if he knocked out Stipe in the first round too. That's how good this guy is. So that is the fight that everybody wants to see. All respect to Stipe, of course. He's done amazing things in his career. He's the greatest heavyweight of all time, but he is so much older at this point. He's so inactive. He's just not taking fights, and that's the thing that bothers fans a lot more than anything else. They either get annoyed when you're not active or they forget about you. One of the most important things in this sport to keep fans' retention is to stay active. Hamza Chimaev showed that to everybody. He became a star by doing that. So hopefully, we get to see Jon Jones versus Sergei Pavlovich and then have Stipe fight like Tom Aspinall or something just to see if he's back in the groove of things because he's gonna need a fight, you know, he hasn't fought in a while. So shake off the rust and see if Stipe is still at this level.